Hallöchen allerseits, my name is botti.crafts, and if you want to know how to make a cyberpunk magical girl from one of these dolls, then welcome to my desk. I am once again joining ENCHANTERIUM's Patreon challenge with the goal to create a magical girl but with a cyberpunk twist. My inner child convinced me and my adult money to purchase this set of dolls, and because of their beautiful big faces and vibrant hair colors, I thought they'd be perfect for customizing. I wanted to use the original hair because it was so long and I love the colors so much, and maybe this will bite me in the butt later in this video, but for now please just admire this blue-haired baby girl that will no longer be a mermaid but a fierce cyberpunk magical girl ready to take over Night City. Let's start with the face up. Okay, while you are watching me removing her factory paint with some acetone, I'd like to tell you why I think I could combine a magical girl theme with this dystopian, corpo-dominated and harsh world of cyberpunk. Isn't high-tech and the technical advance that we feel every day also some kind of magic? If people from the Middle Ages would time travel into 2025, wouldn't they think this is all magic? Anyways, let's continue crafting. I protected her hair with cotton and sprayed her face with some MSC. As you can see, I also gave her some kind of bodysuit with epoxy clay, but unfortunately I didn't film any of this because I had a spontaneous late night burst of inspiration, didn't set up the camera right, and all you could see of the process would look like this. Unfortunately, this trend continues throughout the whole process of the face up, so please just believe me that I managed this face up on my own. Well, at least I have a tiny bit of usable material, but I think the mentionable details of her face is her cyberware. According to the Cyberpunk wiki, these lines are called EMP threading, and they are supposed to provide protection from electromagnetic interference from implanted cyberware and radiation. And most people wear them as a fashion statement. I painted the threads with a light watercolor pencil, bordered with a bit of red, and put metallic silver on top. I added tiny golden dots with a pearl pen to give it a bit more dimension. While we are talking about cyberware, let's continue with her clothing so we can have a closer look at her bodysuit. At the beginning of this project, I tried to avoid sewing as much as I could, so I thought a sculpted bodysuit would be perfect. It serves as tactical armor, but the big heart over her chest is a reference to the magical girl theme. I primed it with black matte Mod Podge and dry brushed it with this metallic baby blue. I added some tech greeblies later on, so now we will focus on her garments that are actually made of fiber. I'm still dodging the sewing machine, so I stuck to crochet, the only handicraft I can somehow manage. I made a tiny cardigan from this bright yellow acrylic yarn, heavily inspired by David Martinez's jacket from Cyberpunk Edgerunners. After trying it on, I thought it looked too bulky and switched to a lighter cotton yarn. I used the colors Sunflower and as a contrast this beautiful dark aquamarine, and with a 2.5mm hook and a bit of editing magic we now have a very nice and fitting little cardigan. I added tiny pearls to create visual interest and then decided to still use the chunkier version of the cardigan too, just because I already made the effort and I thought the layered oversized look would also fit the cyberpunk style. As you can see, she already has a skirt that is nothing more than a piece of black fabric wrapped around her waist, because I didn't want to sew anything. We will continue the no-sew policy with an old acquaintance from my last video. A template from childhood body's greatest treasure, the Fashion Girl Cinderella Puppenkleidung ohne Nähen set, and this time we'll use the cape template to make a badass coat. Since this project is on a budget and I didn't purchase anything except some pipe cleaners you'll see soon, I used the same black fabric as for the skirt and this baby blue stuff that came with the Cinderella set. I'm cutting out the fabric, and to everyone's surprise, I'm actually bringing out the sewing machine. Apparently, I'm too lazy and impatient to sew by hand, so I gave it another shot. It worked surprisingly well, and the machine made me only cry like 3 times this time. Okay, I promise you'll see my hands actually sew a bit later in this video, but now let's talk about this coat. We're having a dark shiny satin-like fabric on the outside and this baby blue silver pattern on the inside that also reflects the essence of this doll. This is also where I developed a bit more of a backstory. She's the sweet, innocent-looking schoolgirl by day, and after dark she's a highly skilled cyberpunk chasing down Sandevistan users for revenge. That's why she has this graphic on the coat. and because I thought it looked cool. I used white fabric paint and these fancy pencils named outline markers. As a very short and spoiler-free explanation, the Sandevistan is a dangerous military implant that allows the user to move so fast that to them it looks like the world is standing still. If you want to know more about it, please watch Cyberpunk Edgerunners. It's a lovely series and you are definitely not gonna cry. I used this pink pipe cleaner to add this faux fur to the coat, and to hide the ugly hot glue seams, I used the pink marker again. I scavenged this old bag to get the zipper and the velcro and used both to improve on the bulky, well, I wrote green but it's actually yellow, cardigan. Here's the promised footage of me sewing. Please enjoy. Next we are working on her schoolgirl outfit. I made a pleated skirt from an old cotton top and added a baby blue ribbon to it as a wristband. The sewing gods left me here, but we just take the wonky stitches as extra cool cyberpunk detail. I added a snap and we continue with the blouse that is also made from white cotton from the stash. The pattern I used is the shirt for male fashion dolls from Chelly wood, but I made it without sleeves to reduce the bulk inside the cardigan. I constantly messed up with the seams and the cotton frayed a lot, and the bobbin thread changed the color through the sewing process because a lazy person had just winded some white yarn over a blue one. The finished product is far from perfect, but you gotta start somewhere. I also added a snap button and used the same blue ribbon as a magical girl bow, and this is the result. The last thing to say about her outfit is that I made this knee sock from an old pair of thighs, and now we'll continue with her accessories. We'll start with some earrings and piercings. I used wire and nail art stickers to metal up her face. I also sculpted a watch and 2 bracelets from the epoxy sculpt and painted them with this blue metallic marker. The blue marker has another comeback for the bodysuit and also later for her shoes. The shoes nearly drove me crazy because I actually opted for some strange but cool looking tech gear shoes with exhaust pipes and a floating rubber sole, but all I managed to produce was straight for the bin. That's why I simply used a pair of shoes that came with these dolls and fit the color with the rest of the outfit. The next thing I made are these cyber glasses that transform her from her schoolgirl me to the cyberpunk. They're made from an old Regulora hairband and painted and decorated again with the same markers to suit her outfit. From the harvested velcro I made these tiny applications for her jacket. I love that they just stick to the yarn so you can easily customize the garment. 10 out of 10. Here you can see all the tiny details I glued to the bodysuit. These parts are actually harvested from an old PlayStation controller and I really love the whole look of it. The last thing I did was her hair because it was already attached and I didn't want to ruin it. This is also where I kinda regretted that I used a factory hair because I was barely able to handle it. The texture was a real pain to work with because it was somehow greasy but matted easily. I used the hair straightener and accidentally melted away her bangs to a lump of plastic and had to reroute a part of her head, but the boil washing method barely did anything with it. That's why instead of these bangs that I planned for her, she now looks this way, which isn't too bad either. Sometimes you gotta know when to surrender. I twisted some of the hair into space buns and made this voluminous pull-through braid with the rest of it. To hide the elastics, I also added a piece of the pink pipe cleaner. The final step is to assemble everything and have our fluffy supervisor give a final inspection of all the items I made. With a sniff of approval, he signs off on my work, so now you can take a look at the finished results. A huge thanks goes to ENCHANTERIUM who hosted this collaboration. You can find the beautiful works of the other participants under the Hashtag #MagicalTeamCollab on social media. Thanks for watching und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss!